So the story kicks off in the depths of space, where a spaceship, spinning out of control, is racing straight toward Earth at lightning speed. Within seconds, it crashes into a river with a massive splash. Miraculously, one man survives Kynan, an alien warrior from another world, but his joy fades fast when he realizes his crewmate, Pollard, is dead. And not from the crash. His friend's body is torn apart by something vicious. Confused and shaken, Kynan activates his advanced computer to scan his surroundings and discovers the shocking truth: he's on Earth, a primitive planet, centuries behind his own world. Stranded and alone, he grabs his high-tech weapon and sets out to find help. After walking for miles, Kynan stumbles upon a ruined village, silent, burnt, and lifeless. The people here didn't just die, they were hunted. A massive creature had attacked the same kind of deadly beast that came from Kanan's planet. It's here now, loose on Earth. Before he can react, Kynan senses movement, and suddenly, a warrior on horseback charges at him. He fights back, but the attack knocks his weapon off a cliff. Exhausted and injured, Kynan collapses. The man who captured him is Wulfric, a brave fighter from a nearby village ruled by King Hrothgar. Wulfric drags Kynan back to his kingdom, unaware that this strange man from the stars is about to change their world forever. Meanwhile, in the village of Hierot, King Hrothgar trains his fierce daughter Freya in sword fighting. He dreams of seeing her married to Wulfric, his nephew and the heir to his throne. But their lesson is interrupted when Wulfric returns with shocking news: the neighboring village has been completely destroyed. Hrothgar is stunned. He didn't order any attack, so if not him, then who or what did this? And that's where the mystery truly begins. While King Hrothgar was trying to keep peace between the nearby kingdoms, trouble was already brewing. The neighboring chief Gunnar had been away with his men, and before he returned, Hrothgar needed answers. If the real culprit behind the village attack wasn't found soon, Gunnar would assume Hrothgar was responsible, and that could mean war. Hrothgar turned to Wulfric for answers. Wulfric told him about the strange man he had captured near the ruins. Curious, the king ordered him to question the outsider, hoping he might know something. Down in the dungeon, Wulfric demanded the truth, but Kanan's words sounded like madness. Talk of stars, space, and creatures no one had ever heard of. Wulfric thought he was lying and beat him for answers. Still, Kynan said nothing that made sense to them. Later, Wulfric sent Freya to speak to the stranger, thinking she might earn his trust. But by the time she arrived, Kynan had already escaped his bonds. Startled, Freya barely got a moment to react before Kynan knocked her aside and vanished into the night. As darkness swallowed the village, the guards took watch. Everything was quiet, until a blinding flash cut through the mist. A scream followed, then silence. When the others rushed over, they found one of their men dead, torn apart. Panic spread. Everyone thought Gunnar had attacked first, but they were wrong. It wasn't a man behind the slaughter. It was something far worse. A creature from another world, and it had already begun the hunt. Meanwhile, Kynan finally catches sight of the creature. The moment he sees it, he shouts its name: Morwen. Hearing the familiar sound, the beast pauses for a second, then grabs a man in its jaws and disappears into the shadows. Kynan tries to chase after it, but Hrothgar's men stop him before he can reach the creature. The next morning, Kynan is brought before King Hrothgar's court. The king demands to know what that monster was. Kynan explains that the creature is a deadly predator from his homeworld, a being that must have hidden aboard his spaceship and accidentally come to Earth. It was this same beast that killed his friend Pollard, throwing their ship off course and causing the crash. But no one in the hall believes him. Some whisper that it must be the work of a demon, while others, like Wulfric, dismiss it as nothing more than a giant bear. To them, Kynan's story sounds like the rambling of a madman. Still, Kynan stands firm. He tells them that whether they believe him or not, when they go to hunt the creature, they should take him along, because he's the only one who knows how to kill it. After a moment of thought, the king spares his life and agrees to take him on the hunt. The next day, the warriors of Hierot march into the dark forest. They split into small groups, weapons drawn, searching for the beast that has been haunting their lands. But it doesn't take long for the hunt to turn into chaos. A sudden scream echoes through the woods. One of the men has been attacked. The group rushes toward the sound, only to find blood and silence. Then, out of nowhere, a massive bear lunges out of the darkness, tearing through the soldiers. King Hrothgar barely has time to react before the beast turns its eyes toward him, ready to claim the king as its next prey. Suddenly, Kynan appears just in time and saves King Hrothgar from certain death, taking down the raging bear with a fierce strike. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief as their king survives. They carry the bear's severed head back to the village, a symbol of victory. That night, a grand celebration is held in Kanan's honor. The villagers thank him for his courage and for saving their king's life. Later that evening, Kynan steps outside for some fresh air and runs into Freya. She thanks him personally for protecting her father and praises his bravery during their conversation. Kynan finally tells her about the creature, named Morwen, the monster from another world that brought terror to their land. Just then, chaos erupts. A guard collapses with an arrow in his chest, and Freya screams that Gunnar has attacked. Moments later, Gunnar himself appears, tall, powerful, and furious. He charges in like a storm, cutting through Hrothgar's men one after another. As he raises his weapon to strike the king, Kynan once again leaps in and saves Hrothgar's life. Soon, the king's soldiers overpower Gunnar's men, forcing Gunnar to retreat. But before leaving, he turns back and warns Hrothgar that this isn't over. As he storms into the forest with his men, something unexpected happens. Out of nowhere, one of his soldiers is snatched by a shadowy creature. Gunnar steps forward to face it, but when he finally sees the monster's glowing eyes and twisted form, terror takes over. It's Morwen, the real killer. Panic sets in. Gunnar runs for his life, back toward the same village and the same king he had just sworn to destroy. When Wulfric and the guards see Gunnar's men approaching again, they assume he's come back for revenge and order their archers to fire. Arrows rain down and several of Gunnar's warriors fall, all while the real enemy, the beast from another world, lurks in the dark, watching. Just then, Kynan notices a blinding red light flickering through the trees. In that instant, he realizes something. Gunnar and his men aren't attacking. They're running for their lives. He quickly shouts for the guards to stop firing and rushes to open the village gates. Gunnar and his men barely make it inside before the true horror steps out of the forest. From the darkness, a massive, glowing red creature emerges. The Morwen. Its eyes burn like fire, and in its jaws it crushes the body of one of Gunnar's men. Everyone stands frozen as they finally see the real enemy that destroyed Gunnar's village. It wasn't a rival tribe. It was this beast. Now, Gunnar joins forces with Hrothgar and Kynan. Their old rivalry turns into an alliance. But the question remains, how do you kill something like that? Wulfric wants to charge straight into battle and end it quickly, but Kynan stops him, explaining that the Morwen isn't just a wild animal. It's intelligent. A hunter that feeds on human flesh and learns from every attack. The only way to defeat it is with a trap. Hrothgar agrees and orders everyone to follow Kanan's plan. The next day, the men work together to dig a massive pit in the center of the field. Kanan fills it with oil, planning to lure the creature into it and burn it alive. As preparations continue, King Hrothgar quietly walks up to Kanan, speaks to him for a while, and then leaves with a calm expression. Evening falls, and the camp is bathed in torchlight. Freya approaches Kynan, carrying food she made herself. As they sit together, she asks what her father told him. Kynan replies that the king wants him to stay in Heorot, to live among them. Freya smiles, clearly happy to hear that. But Kanan's eyes darken. He tells her softly that he's not the man they think he is, that they don't really know what he's brought with, or the danger that still lingers in the shadows. Freya gently asks Kynan to tell her who he really is. After a long silence, he finally opens up. He says he might look like one of them, but he isn't. He comes from another world, a world much like theirs, ruled by kings and bound by war. He and his people were soldiers, loyal to their ruler, ready to die at his command. In their hunger for conquest, they attacked countless planets to claim them as their own. One of those worlds was home to the Morwens, proud, powerful creatures who once lived peacefully. But Kynan's people destroyed their land, slaughtered them all, and called it victory. As a reward for his success, his king gave him a grand home, where he lived happily with his wife and child. Until one day, while away on another mission, he received a message that shattered his life. A Morwen had survived. It returned to his world and killed everyone he loved, even his family. As he tells the story, his voice breaks and tears fill his eyes. Freya quietly places a hand on his arm and tells him it wasn't his fault. He was only following orders. Then she hands him her family's ancestral sword, saying that now he can use it to avenge his loved ones. Moments later, Wulfric arrives and takes Kynan toward the village gates. But before they can reach, the trees begin to shake. Out of the darkness, Morwen emerges. Eyes burning like fire, claws tearing through the ground as it charges straight toward them. They run, following Kynan's plan, leading the beast toward the massive oil pit. The ground trembles as the creature lunges, and finally, it falls right into the trap. Flames burst into the air as the monster roars, but in the chaos, Wulfric slips and tumbles into the pit. Without a second thought, Kynan dives in and pulls him out just in time. Then he lights the fire. The pit erupts into a blaze, engulfing Morwen in burning light. Its furious roar echoes through the valley before fading into silence. The villagers watch as the flames consume the creature that once haunted their lands. Relief sweeps across the crowd. For the first time in a long while, the people of Heorot finally breathe easy, knowing the monster that destroyed their world has been defeated. In the midst of the celebration, a small child spots another Morwen lurking nearby, and rushes to tell Freya. Without hesitation, she grabs her sword and moves forward to confront it. King Hrothgar follows closely, trying to protect her. But before they can act, the young Morwen lunges at the king, severely wounding him. The situation spirals out of control when flames fail to harm the creatures, showing that even fire cannot stop them. Now, both Morwens are loose, wreaking havoc across the village. Despite the chaos, Kynan and Wulfric bravely fight back. Using skill and strategy, they manage to drive the beasts away, at least temporarily. Yet, in the midst of the battle, the young Morwen kills Gunnar, and the king succumbs to his injuries. Freya watches in horror as her father falls. The village descends into fear. Many villagers flee, but some remain loyal to Kynan and Wulfric, choosing to stay and fight. However, their weapons are useless against the Morwens. Kynan realizes they will need technology far beyond anything the villagers have. Only something from his spaceship could give them a fighting chance. Immediately, Kynan, Wulfric, and Freya head back to the river where his ship crashed. After a tense search, they finally locate it. Kynan dives into the river, pulls out a section of the ship's metal, and discovers their boat destroyed, Wulfric unconscious and Freya missing. He knows instantly that Morwen is behind it. Using the salvaged metal, Kynan forges a new weapon, sharper, stronger, and far deadlier than any sword the villagers have seen, crafted from rare alien metal. Prepared for the next confrontation, Kynan, with Wulfric's help, ventures to a nearby village well to gather information about Morwen's movements, planning their next move carefully against the unstoppable predator. Kynan and the group follow the trail of red water, realizing that the small Morwen has passed through. They enter a cave through the waterway, and to their relief, find Freya alive, but surrounded by the bodies of hundreds of villagers. The larger Morwen had killed and collected them, growing its strength. Among the chaos, smaller Morwens begin to appear. As they move closer to Freya, a young Morwen attacks. At the perfect moment, Kynan strikes it down with his new sword. Another Morwen charges toward Freya, and she screams. Kynan and Wulfric rush after it, and just in time, Kynan throws his sword to Freya, allowing her to slay the creature. The three of them try to find a way out of the cave, but the huge Morwen emerges, catching Wulfric off guard and dragging him away. Kynan follows, finally facing the beast that has been hunting him relentlessly. They clash in a fierce battle. As Morwen loses balance and begins to fall into a chasm, it grabs Kynan's arm. Without hesitation, Kynan slices its hand off, sending the creature plummeting to its death. Wulfric, gravely wounded and bleeding, hands Kynan the heir's emblem he had received after the king's death, passing the responsibility of leading the village to him. Wulfric then dies. Kynan and Freya exit the cave and see villagers fleeing the village in fear of the remaining Morwens. They call out loudly, spreading the news that Morwen is dead, and slowly the villagers return. Together, they perform the funeral rites for King Hrothgar and Wulfric according to tradition. That evening, Kynan takes a tracking device from his spaceship and considers sending a signal to his people. But a thought strikes him. If his people learn about this peaceful world, they might come and conquer it, too, turning this lively village into a wasteland. With determination, Kynan destroys the device forever and decides to stay with Freya, ruling the village as their new protectors. And with that, the story comes to an end. The village is safe, the monsters are gone, and Kynan finally finds a home among the people he now calls his own.